We return once again to the comic book hall, this time with a lot of fun stuff. I say that every time. I do mean it this time. There's like a ton of stuff I'm really excited to talk about.
It's morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and welcome to the comic book hall for April 2026. These are all of the collected editions I picked up in April of 2026. This is so much fun. A bunch of these are new releases, but I got some cool older stuff to talk about, and I've read most of this, so I got thoughts, I got feelings. I'm excited to share this with all of you. And if you're excited to take a look at it, be sure to hit the like button, and subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss out, and be sure to hit the hype button if it's available to you. Let's talk comics. I'm excited. I'm happy. Let's get to it. Here we go. So as always, we're going to start with manga, because I just tend to buy less manga than the other types of other publishers, mostly because there's certain series I read, there's certain series I follow, and I'm pretty much caught up on most of them. Like I still got some Dragon Ball to go back on. But anyways, also like a bunch of manga that I'd like to read just aren't published in English. So that's another reason. But anyways, Kaiju number 8, Relax, Volume 2, is more comedy manga, which is nice to see. Always kind of like, it's wild to me that we do get the comedy manga for Kaiju number 8. Incredibly grateful for that. Love this series, one of my favorite manga series. But we don't get the comedy mangas for like One Piece. You think the more popular series would get the spin-offs more so than the less popular series, but they're publishing pretty much everything. We've got the light novel, we got all of the manga for the comedy manga, and we got the B-side manga. So they've been treating us well. Viz has been treating us well with Kaiju number 8, and I am glad to see it, because now that the main series has ended, I'm looking for some more Kaiju number 8. I will take anything that they give us, and I hope we continue to get it. Alright, got another volume of Sailor Moon Eternal Edition. This is volume 4. The way I've been doing this so far is that I want to get these in nice shape, and I found the best way to do that is to go into my Barnes & Noble, order the book for it to be shipped to the store, and then it comes in their normal book shipments, and then I go pick it up. And then what I'm doing now is when I went to go pick up Volume 4, I also ordered Volume 5. It takes a couple weeks to show up to the store, but I've been getting them in good shape that way. And it also helps space out the budget-wise, because these are like $28 a volume, but look, they're beautiful. They're the large size paper, they're glossy paper, they have the color artwork in it. I really, really have been enjoying reading Sailor Moon, and it's been nice reading it in this format. This is just it's a classic for a lot of reasons, but it's a very delightful series. I've been really enjoying it. Got kind of to one of the darker storylines here with Black Lady, so it's been kind of fun there as well. But the more I've been reading it, and also one of the things very interesting to me as well, is that Sailor Pluto is very dark-skinned in the manga itself. In the color artwork and in the animes and stuff, she's a little bit more tan than the other Sailor Guardians, but in the manga she's distinctively like a dark-skinned character, which I find fascinating and also slightly concerning at the way that has been light-washed out of existence. This happens to anime and manga characters when they're animated by Toei, it seems, in particular, because One Piece fans will probably know what I'm talking about in terms of people's skin tones getting lighter over time. Anyways, I haven't finished reading Volume 4 yet, until I get that call from Barnes & Noble to say, hey, Volume 5's in. I don't really have to rush it, but I've just been enjoying this series a whole lot. So, looking forward to more. All right, let's move on to Dark Horse next. I've been reading some Star Wars from them. I read all the Star Wars comics that Marvel pumps out. They kind of slowed down. But the Marvel comics, I've read all of them. I did give up on High Republic at a certain point, because it kind of feels like if you're reading the High Republic comics only and you're not following like the guidebooks and the novels, you lose a lot of context. So I did stop reading those. But I've been keeping up with Marvel's Star Wars comics, which are all coming to an end, or have ended already, which is crazy. But Dark Horse has been doing Star Wars comics, and they don't have a nice digital service app that lets you read everything close to it, so I end up buying their stuff. I had picked up the Bad Batch series from the Hyperspace Stories, and so I was like, all right, I'm just going to, kind of pick and choose, but I definitely want to read more of these. So we have Hyperspace Stories Grievous. This is a original graphic novel, and this was great. I like exploration of General Grievous. Crazy to me that Marvel doesn't really do anything with Grievous. They kind of avoid the prequels in general. Like, the prequel era gets a little bit of love from the Marvel comics, but not very often. And I think there's a lot to explore, especially because a lot of the prequel era exploration stuff outside of the Clone Wars TV show was done by the original Dark Horse comics, so it's nice that Dark Horse is doing it. But this is a Grievous story that goes into him being a Jedi hunter and goes into some more depth and details and talks about like his hunting skills. It's really cool. I really like it. Definitely got me going to look for more of the prequel era Hyperspace Stories volumes, so there definitely will be more. Like Codebreaker. This is actually a new release as well. Codebreaker is a Poe Dameron story, and I guess I'll talk more about this when the Star Wars Poe Dameron Omnibus comes out, which I don't collect Star Wars Omnibuses, but I'm getting that. Poe Dameron's my favorite character from the sequel trilogy, and it's not just, it's not from the movies. Like, Oscar Isaac does a great job with what he has to work with, but he's not my favorite character because of the movies. It's because of the comic books. Because Poe Dameron had a pretty lengthy comic run at Marvel that was fantastic, and I'm very excited for the omnibus that collects it all. And this just kind of feels like a bit of an extension of that, and we just get another adventure with Poe and BB-8, and they're looking for this code breaker, and they're trying to figure out what to do then. And also was nice to see they had other members of Black Squadron there, his other X-Wing buddies, because they were big characters in that comic as well, which is what I also did like about it. So I will pick up a Poe Dameron story anytime because he's awesome. And then we have Tides of Terror, which is the most recent release. And this is a miniseries, as you can tell from the cover, focused on Kit Fisto. Now, Kit Fisto is my favorite Jedi of all time. Love that guy. He's fun. He's enthusiastic. He's got like the underwater abilities, which kind of make him more unique. Love the character. And this is a really neat story because it's focused on Kit and his Padawan Nadar Veb, who we only really saw for like one episode of Clone Wars, so there isn't like a ton about him in the current canon. And so this expands on that, gets to see like a younger tale. This is pre-Clone Wars, so you can see Nadar younger. They're also working with Mace Windu and Shaak Ti for this, which I think is great, but it's a great underwater adventure. It's absolutely what I love to see in the Star Wars comics. And what I love to see with them in particular is, here's a story, we're never going to touch it in the shows or movies, so let's just tell it in a comic, right? And it's like a fun side story. I think the problem I have sometimes with Marvel's Star Wars comics is they're like, let's fill the gap between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, but it's like 5 years worth of comics and you start to question the time scale on everything. Or you get comics like the most recent Star Wars ongoing, where I was like, what are we even doing? You clearly are not allowed to do anything interesting, so why are we messing with these characters? Why is there a miniseries about Han Solo looking for the Falcon when we know he's not going to get it? Why is there a series of, who killed Qui-Gon, or who's gonna, it was Jedi Knights, but like, who is gonna kill Qui-Gon Jinn is not an interesting mystery hook when we already know when and where he dies. Marvel Star Wars comics just have not been interesting to me for a while. I liked when they were doing the interconnected crossover stuff, but then it's just kind of been like, what are we doing? Like, the one I enjoyed was Legacy of Vader, but then it kind of got a weird ending. So I'm enjoying these, which are, they know what they're doing, which is, Disney's not going to animate or shoot a live-action movie or show about Kit Fisto. So let's just do a little 4-issue comic about Kit Fisto and give some context of him and his Padawan when his Padawan was training with him, as opposed to when we saw him in Clone Wars. That's what I want out of Star Wars comics, and Dark Horse is providing it pretty successfully. So I'm going to be looking at some others. I know there's a Qui-Gon Jinn graphic novel, which I do want to pick up as well. All right, moving from Dark Horse to IDW, moving from one Star franchise to another, we have the Star Trek Voyager Omnibus. This is a bit of a frustrating book for two reasons. First of all, I don't like using the Omnibus tag for paperbacks anymore because everybody associates omnibuses with, those. So it's just kind of an annoying little thing. But I gotta say that I do like having these collections of the Star Trek comics that IDW's published. So Voyager is a single volume that is that thin. This is all the Voyager comics that were published at the time this came out. Sadly, when this came out, around that time they announced that they're going to do another Voyager miniseries called Homecoming. That's the story of them getting home and picking up right where the final episode left off. And I don't know why this wasn't just delayed so we could include Homecoming in it. It would make the page count a little heftier because this thing is thin. All it has is Seven's Reckoning, which was a miniseries, the Mirrors and Smoke Mirror Universe Voyager one-shot, and then a couple extra stories from the Waypoint specials. It is nicely priced. It's only $16, and you are getting more than a standard trade in miniseries, but just not by much, because they just didn't do anything with Voyager. DS9 got a big, thick book, and Voyager just gets, well, we had one miniseries, so I would have liked them to have waited to do Homecoming as part of this, so that way it could be a bit of a thicker volume and feel like it goes more consistently. And then here is the Star Trek Discovery Omnibus, which is actually the longest page count of one of these so far, because they did a bunch of Discovery tie-in comics, which was good, because Discovery, being the first streaming era Star Trek show, it had 5 seasons, but a lot of corners weren't fully explored because they only had their 13 to 15 episodes a season, and then it was later down to 10, so they didn't have time to explore like certain things. So we have like a whole mini-series about the Klingons, which is called The Light of Kalis, so that's like a whole Klingon mini-series to kind of give them more depth. I mean, it depends on who you are, because some people did think there was maybe too much Klingon in Season 1 of Discovery, which is a fair criticism. So you got that going on. Then we got another miniseries, which I just realized I skipped over the start of. Then we have Succession, which is a Mirror Universe set story that focuses on Mirror Burnham, which, again, cool things to explore here. The next thing was there was an annual issue released, and so that was included, which has stories for Stamets and Colbert, which is nice. We've got, what else we got in here? Aftermath. Aftermath was focused on after the events of Season 2. What about Pike and Spock? What happened to them? How do they deal with what happened after that? So that's kind of a really cool thing. I really like that series a whole lot, because it was nice to give context to like what happened after Season 2 of Discovery. I got the Captain Saru annual one-shot, which focuses, of course, on Captain Saru. But, you know what's funny? I do want to point out this. The other covers of the omnibuses, I'll compare them in a moment. They had like a nice cast collage, and this one's just the Discovery. That's a cover right there. That could have been the cover of the collection, I think. So we have that one shot in here, and then it wraps up with the last of the Discovery stuff they released, which was Adventures in the 32nd Century, which was essentially a 4-issue anthology series. Like, one issue focuses on Book's cat, for example, and then you got another issue focused on Gray and Adira, and then you got another issue focused on Detmer. So it was kind of like a nice little anthology. This one with Linus is pretty great. Mostly because Linus is just like a great visual character, because he kind of looks like a dinosaur, and then they kind of like have him learn about dinosaurs. And then that's kind of like where it wraps up in the collection. It's got some cover galleries in the back. It's pretty nice. I don't think it's missing anything. I know that they have featured the Discovery characters in the Pride Month celebration one-shots, and I don't know if they've had a Discovery story in the first one. I don't think there was. I think there's going to be a Discovery story in the second one. But other than that, it's a pretty comprehensive, complete book. Also, big, thick page count, nice, thick paper, $25. I think I've been enjoying that the most with these collections so far. And you can see, these are how the spines look. And that's why the Voyager one also looks weird. Because, like, you know, Deep Space Nine Discovery, Discovery is longer than DS9, but still it's, like, mostly consistent. I'm wondering where this line will go. I know there's a Picard one, which is probably not that much longer than Voyager, because that only had, like, a 6-issue thing. There's a Strange New Worlds Omnibus 1. It's got the first 2 or 3 miniseries. So I'm going to get those in time. I just don't know if they're going to do about TOS and TNG, because there's a lot more of those. And they had started doing these things called library collections. And the library collections were supposed to be every Star Trek comic ever republished in like one volume was all the Kelvin stuff, one volume was like early TNG, one volume was Star Trek Year 4. And so they did those, but then they kind of stopped those. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe they'll go back and be like, here's TOS Volume 1, here's TOS Volume 2. Because these maybe sold better. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm glad to see them. But you can see what I mean. I wanted a cast shot on this one, because it would match that these two had cast shots. But yeah, these are great. They may not be the most consistent, but hey, for the price point, you can't lose with these. These are solid. All right, let's move on to Image. We got Inferno Girl Red Book 2. This is the trade edition of Inferno Girl Red Book 2, which was kickstarted just like Book 1 was. And this is a neat, continuation of the series. I really have adored this. It's a really cool superhero, very Kamen Rider inspired. It's got like, the characters have like giant text with phrases that you could imagine coming out of a Kamen Rider belt. I really like it. If you read the first volume, definitely check out the second. If you didn't read the first volume, check out the first volume. It's great. I love the artwork in this in particular. It's an awesome series. All right, continuing the Universal Monsters comics, we got The Invisible Man by James Tynion IV and Danny. Danny's a great artist, and they're doing the new Batwoman, and Tynion's doing, has done a lot of Batman, so it's kind of like a weird meeting of Batman creators. But this was incredible. These Universal Monsters comics by Skybound have been amazing, but this one with The Invisible Man is taking a different approach than trying to adapt the movie or create a sequel or whatnot. It's kind of going into the psychosis of Jack Griffith and figuring out, well, how did he create the invisible formula? What was his motivations behind doing so? And it has the most amazing twist in the third issue. I love it. It's fantastic. Highly recommended, just like all of them. These have been incredible. All right, G.I. Joe Real American Hero Deluxe Edition Book 1. So, if you're wondering what's up with this, I will explain. It's my job. So this is the Cobra cover, which is the direct market cover. You can see we got Cobra Commander and a Crimson Guard and Serpentor Khan and a Cobra Trooper. But this is the Larry Hama written G.I. Joe, not the Joshua Williamson G.I. Joe, which is the Energon Universe one. This is the original G.I. Joe continuity that started in 1982, continuing to this day because this has issues 301 to 310. Now that's daunting. And that's terrifying if you're a new reader. And I've had people ask me, can I just jump in at 301? Yes, you can. When I started reading this comic, it was like in the 250s, I think. And that was when it was at IDW. Because the first 155 were at Marvel. 156 to 300 was at IDW. 301 onward is Image Skybound. I started in at the 250. You just jump in. Don't worry about the continuity so much. If you want to read the continuity, they've been reprinting it, luckily, in big old Compendium paperbacks and Kickstarter hardcovers. But this book is written with an intention of you can just drop in and go, oh man, what's happening? And then you just kind of pick up and go. Don't worry about it too much. Just get in, enjoy the wonderful artwork. Chris Moneyham is the artist on this, and look at every page is gorgeous. I gotta say, this is, no disrespect to anyone that's worked on this book, because I think there's been a lot of incredible artists on the G.I. Joe comics. This is my absolute favorite art style I have seen on Real American Hero. Also, if you're jumping in at 301, you totally can, because they intentionally put in a 2-page recap of like G.I. Joe and Cobra to get you established, get you kind of caught up, so you know the major characters, and then you can just jump into the story. And I had to wait almost 2 years to see the conclusion to the cliffhanger from 300. And I thought it was crazy that Larry Hama wrote a cliffhanger when IDW was like, we're losing the license. And I'm like, okay, what's issue 300 going to be? It was like the last thing IDW published with a Hasbro license. And it didn't even make trade paperback, because they were just like, they were giving them as much time as they could. And it ended on a cliffhanger. And I was like, what? And we didn't know who was getting the license, but I think Larry Hama did. It was great. Now, that being said, 2 collection-related things. This is done in the same style as the Energon Universe hardcovers. It is not in the Energon Universe. The one with Void Rivals, Transformers, G.I. Joe, that's a separate thing from this. The format is the same. You've got $60 hardcover, or $50 hardcover, sorry. $50 hardcover, nice oversized format, 2 different covers. There's a G.I. Joe cover and there's the Cobra cover. I go for Cobra because I think they have the cooler designs. But the question is, how does it look on a shelf with the Kickstarter hardcover compendiums? It looks like that. It is oversized. These are standard size. The reason these are standard size was because the files they have of all the scans, of all the digitization, of all 300 issues were standard size files. They do not have the files necessary to make oversized. That's why they're standard size. Now, I don't think there is going to be like 200 more issues of G.I. Joe. I don't think we're getting to issue 500. Larry Hama is a legend, but I don't know how long he's going to keep going with it. He's going to go as long as he wants. But I think this is Skybound telling us this is our premium format for these comics. Obviously, there are trade paperbacks of 301 onward, which would be more consistent sized with the paperback compendiums. But if you're a hardcover person, these are the hardcovers I think we're getting. At most, maybe we'll get like one compendium hardcover of all of it. I don't know. But for now, this is what we got, and this is how it'll look. Just imagine this says 8 because it's the, the second, the volume that goes up to 300 in, the second box set. But that's kind of how it looks on the shelf. It's not super consistent, but I would rather have this in oversized than to have standard size hardcovers, to be honest, because if I'm going premium, I want to go premium. Also, it will look pretty nice with the other deluxe hardcovers on the shelf for the Energon Universe volumes if you wanted to put it there. Which honestly isn't a bad thing. They're all image hardcovers at the end of the day. All right, let's go over to Marvel. We have Marvel Zombies Dawn of Decay. This is an all-ages zombies comic, which you're probably wondering, how's that possible? Also, it is a digest size. It's not the full size. I picked this up on sale. It has Groot in it. That's why I got it. Basically, Groot gets infected, and he starts infecting everybody, and they get turned into plant zombies. So it's kind of that Plants vs. Zombies vibe, I guess. It's fun. It's not the greatest thing in the world. It's not, true Marvel Zombies style. But it's enjoyable if you like a little fun little side story. It's definitely all ages appropriate. And it features my boy Groot. So that's why I have it. It's for Groot. All right, Moon Knight, Black, White, and Blood. This is me starting to pick up some more of the Marvel Black and White comics. I have some in Treasury Edition. Moon Knight's been out long enough. The Treasury Edition's kind of sold out at a lot of places, and I'm not like a Moon Knight completionist, so it's fine for me. I was like, I'll just get the trade, just like I got for Elektra. It's great. It's cool. It's Moon Knight, who's already black and white, with blood mixed in, and it's very, very trippy, which I appreciate, because Moon Knight comics are always good when they're served with a little bit of the weird. So definitely a nice addition to that. I was at my comic shop. I was looking through the used section, found Infinity Crusade Volume 1 and 2. These are the old paperback editions of Infinity Crusade, which contain not only the Infinity Crusade series, but Warlock Chronicles and Warlock and Infinity Watch issues. It's not obviously like a omnibus style for this, but I have paperbacks of Infinity Gauntlet and Infinity War, and Infinity Crusade is kind of like the end of that trilogy. For me, they've been doing Silver Surfer omnibuses of the 90s run, which is awesome because I love the 90s Silver Surfer. But the not awesome part is I have like almost all of it in Epic collection. I only need like 2 more Epics to exist, so I don't really want to go and rebuy everything in Omnis. But the cool part is the Omnis are including Infinity Gauntlet. So they'll eventually probably include the Infinity Crusade issues that relate to Silver Surfer. And so I'm trying to think smart. I'm like not rebuy my entire Silver Surfer Epic collection in Omni, but instead just kind of look for the gap fillers of event stuff. And so I have Gauntlet and War, here's Crusade. So I'm kind of good on the Infinity stuff. Speaking of Marvel Cosmic, this is a massive disappointment for a couple reasons. First of all, this is Jonathan Hickman's Imperial. Imperial was an event that was supposed to be like Annihilation and usher in a new age of cosmic Marvel comics. And then all of them died immediately. So Imperial was a 4-issue event that had one-shots to tie into things going on, and the whole idea is that the cosmic side of the Marvel Universe is going to be more interconnected again, and this is a big event. Jonathan Hickman's a big writer, and apparently it didn't live up to Marvel's sales expectations, so all the books that spun off of this ended up getting cut short, which sucks, because I actually really liked this in concept. First of all, the main characters of the event all had one-shots to lead into the new series. So we have Black Panther, which went into Black Panther Intergalactic, which was, I think, supposed to be an ongoing, but was cut short to a 4-issue miniseries. I haven't read it yet because I thought, well, I'm getting the trade eventually, so I'll just get that. Planet She-Hulk, where She-Hulk is now left in charge of Sakaar, because Hulk and Amadeus Cho, I forget his current name, were supposed to come back and pick her up after a couple days. Didn't happen. That led into an ongoing series I thought was fantastic, but it was canceled, and issue 6 was its last, so that's a bummer. We have Exiles, which was focused on Charles Xavier and Lilandra. Exiles never even came out. The whole line imploded so fast we didn't even get Exiles as a series, which is crazy, and shows a lack of commitment from Marvel to let anything grow naturally. Nova Centurion, same boat as She-Hulk. Thought it was great. Was enjoying it. Issue 6 was its last, and everything had to be wrapped up super quick. That sucks as well. And then we've got Imperial Guardians, where there's a new Guardians team that you can see is hinted here with Carol Danvers and Cosmic Ghost Rider and Gamora and Darkhawk. And there was a tie-in to the Inhumans because they appear in this event. That series was supposed to be ongoing and was downgraded to a miniseries before the first issue came out. So I told my shop to pick it off the list. No point in buying it in singles. I'll just read it when the trade comes out. Yeah, Imperial is a whole lot of missed potential. Because I think they had a chance to really reinvigorate the cosmic side of Marvel, give us something good. Amazing Spider-Man was tying into it. The Wiccan comic that came out was tying into it. And then it all just died immediately. And it felt like Marvel just didn't want to give any commitment, which is a bummer. Also, this trade dress bugs me because that dude's just the guy that kills somebody to kick the whole thing off. It's not really a major character. You have like Black Panther and She-Hulk and Nova, Star-Lord. Stick somebody on there. Other thing that bugs me, much like anybody that comes in to write the character Star-Lord, except for anyone not named Al Ewing, nobody seems to look at what previous writers did with Star-Lord, and so he goes through another reset yet again. There's one of my biggest complaints, and I just kind of let it go, because like, well, this will develop into something, was Star-Lord and Nova treated each other like they didn't even know each other, and I was like, yeah, the Al Ewing run had them almost hooking up, so like, why the hell are we treating like they're just people that don't even know each other that well? And then the Nova Centurion series actually revealed that they were just playing the whole time, and they were like, I still love you, buddy. And I was like, well, I'm glad Jed McKay remembered continuity. Continuity is not a huge thing that makes or break a comic, but it does annoy me sometimes when I'm like, this is clearly a defined arc, and then it just kind of gets thrown out because nobody thought that it was important, which kind of is the problem with Guardians of the Galaxy comics. Pretty much since Bendis left, everybody's just been doing their own take on it, and only Al Ewing was the one to really think about how these characters have developed. So that run was also cut short by Marvel. So speaking of depressing, Daredevil, Cold Day in Hell. So this is Charles Soule returning to Daredevil for a future set Daredevil story. I'm not usually a big fan of the old man trope, like the old man Logan. Don't love old man Logan. Old man Hawkeye and old man Quill, I enjoyed those because the writers I enjoyed on them. This is basically old man Daredevil. And you know what? Charles Soule is so talented at writing Daredevil that I actually enjoyed it. So, big compliment. The interesting part is you may notice this is a standard size hardcover. It's not an oversized, not an omnibus, not a deluxe edition. Just a standard size hardcover, no dust jacket. But there's that on it. I think because it's out of continuity. It's an alternate future. So, that's why they did it like that. But it's pretty solid. I actually enjoyed it when I don't normally enjoy, the old man comics. And then we have Death of the Silver Surfer by Greg Pak. This, I don't know what to make of this series still, and it's been out for a while. It is essentially a storyline about how Norrin Radd, the Silver Surfer, is going to die, and then he eventually gets a replacement, and it feels like MCU synergy a bit. They set up this new replacement. It's a woman. It's not Shala Ball, like in, Fantastic Four First Steps, but a lot of people were like, they're doing this because of synergy. And I'm sitting here still trying to figure out, is this book even in continuity? Because there's some consistency with, like, the Fantastic Four, like, Johnny has his mustache, but their costumes are slightly different. And then the Avengers show up later, and the Avengers lineup is the one that's from Jed McKay's run, right? Like, that's the Jed McKay Avengers lineup, so it seems like it's in continuity. That was kind of my takeaway. Silver Surfer hasn't appeared in any comics since this ended, so I have no idea, either, Norrin or the new one. But you guys notice it's a standard size hardcover. Like Daredevil Cold Day in Hell, the alternate future story that's definitely not in continuity. Is this telling us that Death of the Silver Surfer is not in continuity? I have no idea, because again, no Silver Surfer has shown up since, and they never explained if it was in continuity or not. And it kind of almost feels like maybe it's not, or it will be if they decide it to be, like a Batman Killing Joke situation, but I'm taking it as out of continuity for the time being. Silver Surfer does not show up enough to be doing legacy character stuff with him. He has like one miniseries every other year. It's not really a reason to take him off the board and introduce a new character. There's definitely still stories to tell with Norrin Radd. So I've heard for a long time that Daredevil Shadowland's really bad. So I decided to try it for myself. I haven't read it yet. I almost considered pushing this just to the next Comic Haul, just so I could talk about it, but maybe that's just his own video at some point. Shadowland is very divisive. I've seen everybody say it's the worst Daredevil run of the modern day. I don't know, I read the Solid and Ahmed run. That was pretty bad. But, the thing is, I don't know. Maybe it's bad, maybe it's good. This omnibus is like an event omnibus plus because it's got Daredevil 501 to 512, the Shadowland series, all the Shadowland tie-ins. The thing is, I was going over my Daredevil collection, and I was like, all right, well, you know, the Epic collections are covering, for modern Daredevil, the Epic collections are covering the stuff between Bendis that wasn't Bendis, and the Brubaker stuff's getting covered. So, I'm kind of good having, like, the 1999 issue 1 all the way through in Epics. But then I was thinking about Shadowland. I was like, how are they going to tackle it? Is there going to be like a Shadowland Epic separate from 501 to whatever before Shadowland? Is it going to be just, the Daredevil issues and Shadowland? There's a Ghost Rider issue in here. Then I was like, all right, well, how much is the Omni running for? Hey, it's not a loved storyline. That means the Omni was on sale for pretty cheap. So I just kind of was like, all right, I'll just put it in order. Got myself the Omni. So, you know what? I don't mind it, because now I have the Omni. I have Mark Waid in trades. If they ever reprint the Mark Waid Omnis, I'd probably buy those. And I have the Soul Omni and the Zdarsky Omnis. So, it's kind of like, I think my break point is going to be Shadowland. Like, I'll get the Epics up to Shadowland, and then Shadowland onward, I'll just go with Omnis. Kind of a good way to work it, I think. All right, the infamously hard to get Age of Krakoa Dawn of X Volume 2. So this was a big kerfuffle because Marvel seemingly just didn't print enough of this book, and they've already had to announce a reprint for July, or a restock, I guess it's officially called. There was some kind of stocking issue, and I don't normally pre-order my books because most of the books I get, I don't have to worry about stock issues, but as I've been going into the Age of Krakoa, I've been starting to do that. People are getting the pre-orders canceled. It was a whole mess. I got mine on in-stock trades. I really wanted the variant cover because I have the variant cover for the first volume. And I really like the Magneto cover. Wasn't a huge deal to me if I couldn't get the variant. I just needed the book. But I got the book. Happy with it. I love the Krakoa era. I did a whole video just recently about Krakoa collecting guide for oversize. So go check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think I got it pretty concise, pretty considered everything. I'm not going to talk more about this here because I feel like I've covered it in that other video. But yeah, I did pre-order the next one though. I have the next one pre-ordered with the variant cover, so hopefully that just goes through no problem. All right, this first thing from DC is the only older thing that I picked up from DC. The rest of us is new, so just know how much DC's cooking. All right, so first of all, the Action Comics 1000 Deluxe Edition. Why did I get this? Well, it's because it's the Action Comics 1000 issue, which was a nice anthology of different stories by different creators. It also kicked off the Bendis era of Superman comics, and the less said, the better here. It's got all kinds of cool stories in it. In addition to this, they threw in an extra story. They got the variant covers. They threw in some behind-the-scenes stuff. They put in Action Comics #1, and they also put in the Marv Wolfman Superman story that was from the Action Comics 80 Years of Superman, which I was just looking at on my shelf. It's I got it. It's right there. It's a pretty cool collection. It had like some of the best Action Comics stories, but also a new story by Marv Wolfman. So this is pretty comprehensive. Now, for those that collect the Superman omnibuses, this isn't super necessary, but for me, I have the deluxe hardcovers of the Rebirth era for both Superman and Action Comics, and so I wanted to have the stories by Dan Jurgens and Patrick Gleason because those go with those deluxe hardcovers, because those were printed and published before the Action Comics 1000 came out. So this is kind of like, I just wanted this as like a bookending piece to my collection of oversized hardcovers for the early Rebirth era before Bendis. Mr. Terrific Year 1. I don't know why this didn't get put into an ongoing because I thought it was great. It's a good reestablishment of Mr. Terrific's origin. It's done kind of in an interesting format where it starts in present day with Michael Holt, which is in one art style. And then it does flashbacks, which is in another art style, which I think is a great use of comic books, is to have different art styles to show different points in time. But it goes back through his origin, reestablishes his things, and also kind of brings you up to speed on how he became Mr. Terrific. And I was like, great, so where's the spinoff into the ongoing? Hasn't happened yet. Please, please, DC. Also, announce a damn TV show for him. Don't be making, like, other weird stuff. Like, Mr. Terrific, he had heat, he had buzz. Everybody liked him from the Superman movie. Let's roll it into, let's use the momentum. Use the momentum for good. All right, Green Lantern, the Starbreaker Supremacy. This is a crossover between Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps. So it's got Jeremy Adams and Morgan Hampton co-writing, because that's the two writers of the two books. This is essentially a big old crossover to sort of reestablish the Lantern Corps. That's kind of the goal of Starbreaker Supremacy. Supremacy? Yeah, Starbreaker Supremacy is to get the other Lantern Corps back online. Because we had the Green Lanterns, there's a couple Yellow Lanterns floating around. But basically it's a giant crossover with the main goal of let's get the Reds, the Indigos, the Orange, the Blues, the Star Sapphires, let's get them all back on the table. Which I don't mind, because I feel like, for me, the Green Lantern comics, I think, are made improved by the other Lantern Corps. I know it's not everybody's opinion, but I think they're improved by it. This is, of course, issues 25 to 27 of Green Lantern and 7 to 9 of Green Lantern Corps. So, does the spine match the other volumes? Yes, it does. So you can see here, it is a different color than Green Lantern or Corps, but it does match up. So if you're a Green Lantern Corps collector, and you need to have that between your volumes of Green Lantern Corps. If you're a Green Lantern collector, you need to have that between your volumes of Green Lantern. And if you're a collector of both, like me, I think I'm just going to start doing this where it's going to be like, Green Lantern Volume 5, Corps Volume 1, Starbreaker Supremacy, Green Lantern 6, Corps 2. That's going to be probably how I'm going to sort it, just so it's like in reading order. It'd be kind of fun. Green Arrow Crimson Sands is the final volume of the Dawn of DC into DC All-In Green Arrow run. This is the last of Chris Condon's run. Don't worry about Roy. He's fine. So Crimson Sands here. It's got issues 25 to 31. This is the last of this series. It's such a bummer. I love this comic, and the fans really rallied behind it. It was originally a 6-issue miniseries. Sales got it bumped up to 12. And then after it got bumped from 12 into an ongoing, fans didn't really keep supporting it. Come on, guys. There was, I don't remember if somebody from DC. I don't think it was somebody from DC, but somebody said, it'd be great if Green Arrow if fans on Twitter loved Green Arrow as much as actually giving it money. But yeah, 31 issues though. Like, considering Marvel cuts everything at 10 or less nowadays, I'll take 31 issues. That's a huge accomplishment. Also, this final issue is probably one of my favorite Green Arrow stories of all time. I loved it. It was very good. So this is the complete series for Green Arrow. This was the 5th volume. They did the whole thing of, no number on the spine, but number on the back. And there is the entirety of this run. So the Williamson volumes, I liked how they did this. The Williamson volumes have the spine that matches Dawn of DC, and then the Condon volumes match the All-In spines. I think it's a good indicator because, while they continued the numbering, this is, this run kind of ends, and they even have the split where the last issue that Williamson wrote had half of Williamson and half of the first story for Condon, so they put the Williamson half here and the Condon half there. Very consistent, very smart decision making. Looks very nice together. So that's the end of Green Arrow for now. For one day he shall return. Then another series ending, Birds of Prey by Kelly Thompson. Love this. Probably my favorite Birds of Prey run since Gail Simone. This has issues 20 to 28. This is the last of it. It also got cut short, I think, due to sales, and I think also because Kelly Thompson got very busy. She is on a lot of comics. Luckily, we still have the Cassandra Cain Batgirl series, so, at least one character from this has been continuing. Really enjoyed this. Love how ink from Batman Beyond got, reinterpreted and added into the main continuity. Loved this series. Just great character dynamics, fantastic artwork, and one of my favorite things, numbers on the spine. Yeah, so volumes 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So even though the branding changed for All In, they kept the spines consistent. It's kind of funny we did get 2 volumes that were black. All right, yeah, that volume 4 doesn't line up 100%, but for DC, that's pretty good. That's pretty close. Next up, we have Booster Gold, the complete 2007 series, Book 3. Dan Jurgens and Keith Giff and James DeMatteis. That is a hell of a good lineup on a comic. I love this comic. I've enjoyed this whole thing. I think Jeff Johns started it, but I like everything after it more. I don't know. I just really like Booster Gold, and getting Jurgens to write Booster Gold is great. This is the best modern Booster Gold series, probably the only modern Booster Gold series. And this is the 3rd and final volume. I love the difference here between, first day on the job, 3 years into the job. What's great about this is not only does it include 32 to 47 of Booster Gold, it also includes Time Masters The Vanishing Point 1 to 6, which is a mini-series involving the Time Masters, which Booster Gold, of course, is a big part of. Love this book. It plays with DC history really well, which I always appreciate. Does some fun stuff with Blue Beetle, of course. I love it. I'm so glad we have the entire thing now in modern paperback form. That being said, I have one minor little complaint. So these spines, I adore these spines. First of all, look at this one. You got like Booster Gold flying here. Now, when you put this on the shelf with the other two, you can notice that, the spines are a little bit, it's got his symbol, right? And it kind of goes like, down and up, but there's no up on the other side. Can we get a volume 0 that's just the original Jurgens run from the 80s? They can all fit in one book, right? And then we could have like a really nice Booster Gold like spine. I think it looks great either way, but I do find it funny. It's a little lopsided, but it'd be neat if we could get like a paperback of Jurgens Booster Gold run that matches it. And then we could just have like a nice consistent collection of Booster Gold. I'd be really happy with that. DC Finest Western, The Hangman Never Loses. This is a great collection. So just like with horror and with war and with science fiction, this is a Western genre collection for DC Finest. So it contains Western comics from 1970 to 1973. So you got a nice spine image there. I do find it funny. This is like the third collection that I have with the brown, color. I got Teen Titans, got Team Up, and I got Western, and they all have orange backgrounds. Anyways, this contains issues of All-Star Western, Super DC Giant, Tomahawk, Weird Western Tales. And so basically, Super DC Giant are just like special giants. They would be reprints a lot of times, but they would have some new stories included. But basically, it's Tomahawk, it's All-Star Western, and it is Weird Western Tales. And so, because it's 3 books, I get all 3 books into one volume. Covers 3 years, which I think is great. Started reading this. I wanted to make sure I had a taste of what we had before going into it. Big old, historical context required for some of the portrayals of different races of people in this, because, oh my god, some of this stuff is like, wow. Yeah, I don't know if the intention was to be racist, but it comes off like that. That being said, I still think the stories are fun. You just got to be in the context. Now, you'll be sort of confused sometimes because you'll see like this. This is All-Star Western 1 presents Powwow Smith. This is just a cover, and then it goes into Tomahawk 130. The reason why is because All-Star Western number 1 was reprints of previous material. So other DC Finest volumes that could come in the future that take place prior to this one could include that material, so they just include the cover, because that was the only new part of it. That's a little thing they think they were doing. I think it's neat. I think it's a really forward-thinking in a lot of ways. Will we see all these, will we see volumes that give us all 150-plus issues of Tomahawk? I don't know, but, there's that. But yeah, going through these stories, it's like, watching classic Western movies. It's like reading it in comic form. It's fun. I find these to be quite enjoyable. You got your classic Old West kind of vibes. The artwork's really cool. Just like really, like I love like this, the color usage here I think is great. A lot of the panel layouts are really awesome. They're very cinematic in a lot of ways. You can kind of see this being the Bronze Age. Here's another one that was mostly reprints, which was Super DC Giant S14. And then it goes into Super DC Giant S15, which has new stories. But the artwork I think is great, and so it keeps the vibe fun. I like the art. I love the color usage. Bronze Age DC is where comics start to really evolve and present forward in a medium. This story right here, which was a Hang 'em High with featuring Hawk there. This has some of the coolest panel layouts. Like here's the Hangman, and here's his crimes happening around him. I really do like it. Again, you got to go with the context of the time, but go in, have some fun, enjoy some classic comics. I've been reading through this. Yeah, I did about 110 pages in one sitting. That's how easy it was for me to read. Interestingly, it goes from Tomahawk to Son of Tomahawk after issue 130. So it's kind of a little funny little break in the things, but there's a lot of stuff in here. And this goes as far as it does have All-Star Western issue 10 in it, which is the debut of Jonah Hex. Let me see if I can find that, because he's, out of all the DC, yeah, there he is. There's Jonah Hex. Of all the DC Western characters, Hex is the one that's lasted the test of time, and so it's cool that he's in here, though I do think we'll see a Jonah Hex line separate from this, maybe for different stuff, but it was cool his first appearances, at least, in the Western volume. So I was reading more of this Western, and I just kind of wanted to add to this. I kind of mentioned that the book has racial stereotypes and stuff, and I think I mentioned that it never felt like malicious. It just felt like uninformed. But then I got kind of surprised by Son of Tomahawk, like once it transitions to his son being the focus. And I saw this cover, and I was like, what kind of story are we doing here? And this actually is very interesting because there's this villain. That's his name. I'm not going to read it out loud. He's a white guy who's racist and hates Native American people. And he is going after Tomahawk's son. And Tomahawk's son is kind of confused, like, why is he coming after me if he's only going after Native American people? And then it's like, that's his mother and his brother. And so Tomahawk's son did not realize that he didn't, like, really acknowledge or realize that he was mixed race. And I think that was kind of interesting, but it's very interesting because when I saw, like, the title of the issue, I kind of thought of Marvel's character from the same name, who was a villain who was Native American, which is like, you know, such a weird name to, not a weird name, a very uninformed, stereotypical name to give a villain who was Native American, and Marvel did that, and they later renamed him Grey Crow, and in this Tomahawk story, the racist gets his just desserts, but as I've been reading this, I'm surprised and also very impressed that the racial stereotypes are there, but a lot of the stories are kind of centered around, especially in Tomahawk, centered around the racial prejudice put towards Native American people by white people, and I think that is, you know, surprising. It's early 1970s, so this is like comics code's a little looser. DC's, you know, moving towards more social commentary in their comics, but it's not quite to the Green Lantern, Green Arrow days yet. So I was just really impressed, and I've been really enjoying this a whole lot. It's again, not everything's aged perfectly, but it has aged a lot better than I initially thought, and it aged way better than I thought when I first saw it listed. I was like, I like westerns. Let me get the western volume, but like, it's actually really solid. Very impressed. I just wanted to kind of add a little addendum as I read, you know, about 120 pages more since I filmed that previous segment. DC Finest, Batman, Death in the Family, how you wrecked my whole video about spines. I was talking about there's this cool consistency to the Batman DC Finest spines, about how each era had like a different background color, and then here we are in the yellow era, and here's black background. I mean, it is a sad volume. This is the death of Jason Todd. Spoilers, but not really. It's on the cover. This is a famous Batman storyline. And the thing I found that's very interesting is that, you know, first of all, there's so much Batman at this point that this is just August to December 88. The previous volumes in Post-Crisis was 86 to 87, 87 to 88, and now we have 88 to 88, because it didn't quite get to 89. And that's because this contains... We've got Batman 423 to 429, Annual 12, Detective Comics 590 to 595, Annual 1, and the Batman the Cult miniseries 1 to 4. And the Cult, I believe, is, yeah, there it is. Those 4 issues are like that entire chunk because they're prestige issues. That's why it didn't get up to being into, 2 years. Now, the thing I've been finding interesting is that the Death in the Family as a storyline is very famous because the death of Jason Todd was a controversial thing at the time, because Robin as a character is Dick Grayson. Everybody loved Dick Grayson. Jason Todd comes in. People don't like Jason Todd as much. They started to tweak his character, make him more interesting post-crisis, make him a little bit different than Dick, but people didn't like him. And so DC decided to run a telephone poll where you call one number and you can decide the fate. They put him in a precarious situation. It's like, will Jason live? And fans could call in one number, and then if they call in the number and they vote for him to live, or they call in a number and vote for him to die. There's a lot of fun stories about in the DC offices about doing this. It was basically between the following hours on September 15th and 16th of 1988. You had the hours of between 9 a.m. and 8 p.m. as one day was the poll, just over one day. And it was 50 cents for each call. That was kind of cut down on people, spamming calls, which apparently happened. There's like this legend that a guy set up a telephone machine to kill Jason Todd, because according to Denny O'Neil, who was editor at the time, the vote was very close. But yeah, ultimately fans did decide to kill him. And there's this story that I think it was Jeanette Kahn who was in charge of DC. I'm not 100% certain on this, but I believe somebody within DC, high up at the time, found out about it kind of too late and was like, did we do a poll on whether or not we should kill a child, and we let the readers decide? And most of the people involved with the creative choice didn't quite connect that that's exactly what they were doing. But it lived through for a famous thing. It was Jason Todd was dead for a long, long time, until the 2000s when they brought him back as Red Hood. which has had ups and downs, but I think it's a very interesting time. The important part of DC Finest that I've enjoyed is I've read Death in the Family a few times. It's a pretty famous story. They have a standalone like paperback and hardcover for it, but I've never read the stuff context leading up to it. And as I've been reading Year 1 and Year 2 and the Killing Joke DC Finest volumes, I have been dreading Jason's death because I actually really like him as a character and saw a lot of potential in him. And I'm going to be really sad when I get to reading this and seeing him die, because I've really enjoyed the character, and I could see why he didn't come off as well to readers that were long-term at the time. And, anybody that's read comic books a long time has their complaints about changes and certain things, but I'm going to be sad when I get to the death of Jason Todd, and in a way that I hadn't been before, because before it was always like, oh yeah, Jason Todd, he's the one that dies. But now I'm like, man, it kind of sucks that he dies. So I know like the entire video is story time, but story time! The Batman Beyond Unlimited Compendium is a very important book to me for a couple reasons. So first of all, the first ever comic book I read that I can remember reading was the Batman Beyond tie-in comic trade paperback, which was the 6-issue miniseries tie-in to the Batman Beyond cartoon. I think the first issue was like a retelling of Batman Beyond, which kind of provided some extra little details. And then it went from here into like all kinds of stories like Etrigan the Demon, and then eventually it spun off into a 24-issue series. And they combined that miniseries plus a 24-issue series into the Batman Beyond Classic Compendium, which was already released. And so that was really cool for me because it was nice to get a nice updated version of what I can, kind of think is probably the first comic book I ever read. Now this comic has a similar type story. And that story is that Batman Beyond from 2010, which is the first thing in this book, was the first ever comic in my pull box at the comic store that I've been going to for now just about 16 years. And so it's very important to me because this is when I heard that there was a new Batman Beyond comic, which for those who don't know, because it kind of, if you've been following stuff lately, like, it seems like we get Batman Beyond stuff all the time. We get merchandise, we get him, he's in Fortnite, you get, skins and Arkham games and stuff. Until, like, the 2010 era, Batman Beyond, after the show ended, you got that Justice League Unlimited episode that was an epilogue, and that was it. He wasn't in comics, he wasn't the official future of Batman. You just never got any Batman Beyond, like, ever. It was so sparse, and it was like, oh, Mattel made a DC Universe Classics Batman Beyond, and people freaked out. So when they announced this comic, at the time, I'd been going to this comic shop. I've been going to other comic shops too, and just pick up issues here and there. I'd been reading comics. I had trades and stuff, but I didn't have the commitment of I need to pull a comic. This was it, though. This was the comic to do it because I loved the original Batman Beyond show. Loved it as a kid. Loved it as an adult. Again, that first comic, being the Batman Beyond comic. I was like, I need to get this comic. How do I do that? Found out from the shop how to get a pull box, got it set up, been going there weekly for 16 years. So this is the ethos of me pulling monthly comics. So you're probably wondering, how does it hold up? Because I decided, I jumped my reading order. I wasn't quite ready to read this volume. Again, I was going to read it, of course. It's been like 16 years. Of course, I'm going to jump back in it. But I was like, I need to read the initial 6 issues. See if I still like it, It's been a long time. So for those wondering what's contained in this volume, we have the Batman Beyond miniseries 1-6, which is, actually it's probably easier to go from here. I'll explain in a minute. So this has Batman Beyond 1-6, which was the 2010 miniseries that I revisited. Batman Beyond 1-8, which was kind of put on hiatus because of the New 52 launching. Then Batman Beyond Unlimited 1-18, which this is kind of a weird book. So Batman Beyond Unlimited is the print version of digital first stories that were split between Batman Beyond and the Justice League Beyond. Then we have Superman Batman Annual number 4, which is actually Batman Beyond's first appearance in comic books. And that is a really cool story. It's like future set. Superman Beyond number 0, which I'm glad was included here because there's no other place to put it, which is showing Superman in the Batman Beyond timeline. Interestingly, Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, number 1, which we'll talk about in a moment. And then stories from Justice League Beyond Digital 21 and 25. Because these 2 stories from Justice League Beyond did not make it to the print copies of Batman Beyond Unlimited. So they got them included. This is a very nicely mapped compendium. Now, let's talk about continuity. Because the first volume, obviously, is in the TV show continuity. It's not a perfect fit. It's a tie-in comic. But the way that this comic starts with the Batman Beyond miniseries. I do like this tag that says free rental, Return of the Joker. I'll talk about it in a moment. This miniseries starts off, and it's got like Amanda Waller when she's older, which we know, she's active because of Justice League Unlimited. And then it's like Batman's fighting Spellbound, and you go through all this and stuff, and it's like, okay, this feels like a continuation of the comic. Bruce may be a little bit older, a little bit more sprier, or a little younger, a little bit more sprier than he is in the TV show. You see the Justice League Beyond, as we saw it in the TV show, and it's like, okay, this is TV continuity Batman Beyond. But then the reveal that the villain of the first arc is Hush. And the way they talk about Hush is as if he existed in this continuity, which, as far as we know in the DCAU continuity, Hush never existed. And as it goes along, we start to get references to characters like Multiplex, and events like No Man's Land are referenced. And it's like, okay, so this is a hybrid of the DCAU and the main DC continuity, essentially. So that's kind of where the book sits. It has a lot of great visual flares that match the TV show. It also, but again, it's continuity-based. Here's Tim Drake talking about how he's making sure he doesn't turn into the Joker again. But then it goes into characters that we didn't see before. They introduce a new Catwoman. They talk about what happened to Nightwing and Dick Grayson. So it's a hybrid. It's not the DCAU canon, and as the series progress, it gets farther away from DCAU canon. But it's an offshoot. I think it's officially called Earth 12. And everybody that does continuity stuff, is kind of goes with the approach of this is not DCAU canon. This is a alternate reality that is a bit of a hybrid of DCAU canon as well as main DC canon. So it's an Elseworlds. And that goes for the second Batman Beyond series, which, like I said, ran 8 issues. And then that, of course, goes into the Batman Beyond Unlimited series. And the Batman Beyond Unlimited series is where things start to get kind of crazy, because you start getting these stories that the way they would sort of work out is that there would be concurrent storylines of Batman Beyond Unlimited and Justice League Beyond. And so those two would have ongoing stories. And so like one issue, Batman Unlimited, would have like a Batman Beyond issue and a Justice League Beyond issue. But they would be like individual part 1, part 2 type things. So the way that they have mapped it in the compendium is fantastic. It's not in the publication order. You get, for example, Constriction chapter 1 through however. That's the Justice League Beyond story. Then you go to a Batman Beyond story there. Then you go to like Beyond Origin Warhawk. And it goes through and it continues all the way into the storylines. Interestingly, because I think they're trying to establish that this is an alternate future continuity, you do have like the Beyond Origin stuff, and then it goes into the Superman Batman annual number 4, which came out, if you look back at the table of contents, this is how well thought out this book is. I'm really looking forward to rereading all this. If you go through the actual thing here, the Superman Batman Annual 4 is from 2010, which is before Superman Beyond number 0, which is before Batman Beyond Unlimited number 3 from 2012, and this is coming in after Justice League Beyond number 2012, because they kind of work off of the Batman Superman annual is like, here's them in the future, and it's Batman and Superman, right? And then because of this leads into the Superman Beyond one-shot. The Superman Beyond number 0 is a follow-up from Superman Batman Annual 4, and so they've slotted that into the continuity alongside all these other stories from Batman Beyond Unlimited and Justice League Beyond. So that way you get all the connections. And I think that's great. I think it's perfect. I think this is the best way to do it. And then at the very end of the book, when you get through all that, you have the Return of the Joker comic adaptation. And why is this here? Well, I don't want to claim that they forgot something. I don't know if it was an intended exclusion. I do believe they forgot there was a Return of the Joker comic adaptation. This should have been in the back of the previous compendium, which was all the animated tie-ins. This should have been in that. It's not, but to make sure it wasn't forgotten, they left it in the, they put it in the back of this. And I think that's perfect because, the way you read this comic is if you're somebody that liked the show and want to see an alternate future continuation of Batman stories, that's what the rest of this is. It wouldn't make sense to put this at the front. So I think throwing it in the back, and I think the table of contents page calling it a free rental is kind of a cheeky, nice little way to include it. So that way, this is all this alternate continuity. That one story is technically in the original, but it's also an alternate version because it's a comic telling of what the movie was. So I'm glad it was included. So if you have the Batman Beyond Unlimited compendium, and you put it on your shelf next to the Batman Beyond Classic compendium, you've got it covered. You're pretty good. That being said, there is a second series, or there's another series called Batman Beyond 2.0, which is not beloved. I don't like it very much. That's not in this compendium. But I have a feeling that they're just going to kind of continue with the Batman Beyond compendiums just being all the Batman Beyond comics. Because I mapped it out. I think you can put the next volume can be Batman Beyond 2.0 plus Batman Beyond Universe, which is kind of like the same thing. You put those together. Then you can put in the New 52 comic as well as Future's End, where it's supposed to be kind of this continuity folded into the New 52 continuity. So I think that could work. That would make the next volume. And then one more volume would be the DC Rebirth series. And then another volume with Batman Neo-Gothic and its series. So I think there's a plan here. But yeah, they couldn't really add Batman Beyond 2.0 to this because then the book would be even thicker than the Green Lantern book I'm about to drag up here. Yes, because we have our second giant-ass Green Lantern compendium. This is the Sinestro Corps War compendium, the second one after the Green Lantern Rebirth compendium. This thing is massive. So this is the second volume of let's put all the Green Lantern together, and I love that. It's what I've wanted. It's what the Omnibus has never provided. This contains Green Lantern 18 to 38, Corps 10 to 32, Sinestro Corps Special, Sinestro Corps Secret Files and Origins, Tales of Sinestro Corps, Cyborg Superman, Ion, Parallax, Superman Prime, plus Blue Beetle 20, Booster Gold 2, Rage of the Red Lanterns, and stories from DC Universe 0, DC Universe Halloween Special, and DC Halloween Special 09. It's everything. It's everything, and it's in a perfect reading order. I haven't read it yet because, you saw how many giant books I got. I have things to catch up on, but we have not gotten word of the third one, which I think the third one will be Blackest Night, but I don't know if it could just be a paperback version of the Blackest Night Omnibus or they're going to add stuff. I hope they add stuff. It'd be really, really cool if they did. If you want to kind of take a glance at the table of contents, I'm going to flash these up on screen. So if anyone's wondering how this is all mapped, I know people do have the omnibuses. I kept dragging my feet on the omnibuses because I felt like they kept missing stuff, and then they made these, and these are exactly what I wanted, which is literally every frickin' Green Lantern appearance, which includes, like I mentioned, Booster Gold and Blue Beetle issues. So, I love it. It's great. Make more of these. Make more of these, DC. I'll buy every single one of them. They're fantastic. So that was the comic haul for April. I enjoyed doing this video and talking about all these cool books with you guys. So if you enjoyed that, be sure to like button, subscribe, and the notification bell if you haven't already. Leave any comments below. Tell me what you picked up or what you thought of the stuff I picked up. If you so wish, you can continue the conversation by joining our Discord server in the link below. You can also check out channel memberships and get perks like early access to videos and special shoutouts. Let's give some special shoutouts to some of our channel members. Special shout out to all of our channel members, including these Captain Tier members: Adam Lasari, Adonis, Alex Wario94 Ashburn, Grateful Dead 7836, Q Rodriguez, Common Pikachu, Salvatore, Jamie's World, Ellen Retro, Swine-Ass Turumo, KRSSPR103, and Brian Woodruff. Thank you all for your support of this channel, viewers and channel members alike. If you want, you can find me on social media on Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Soundout12. You can also find my wonderful graphic designer on social media and Discord at DarkClaw643. And you can find Hero Club at heroesclub.com for comic reviews and more. And until next time, this is Soundout saying, see you in the next haul.